Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, an impromptu video, something we're uploading at an unusual time because we had the most unprecedented announcement ever in Wild history. Literally, this is game-changing. Absolutely no clickbait on this, by the way. This is a huge deal, and this was just tweeted out by Play Hearthstone as I'm recording this just a few minutes ago. Stealer of Souls, not nerfed, not changed. They're not changing the immune interaction. They are outright banning the card from Wild. Starting next week in an update, you will not be able to play Stealer of Souls in Wild, period. The card is banned. They I had messaged a dev about Stealer of Souls. There's a reason I haven't been, like I said, I've been going too hard on them lately for an update, and they said they're aware of it, they're working on something, and that you know, until they would finalize what they're doing, they didn't want to communicate anything. And well, that's because they're outright banning the card. It is not going to be in Wild, and that's crazy. It's the first ever card banned from a format, other than like duels. They ban cards in duels, and apparently in other games like Magic, like their legacy formats and things like that, they ban cards. And maybe this is something we could see going forward for Hearthstone. And you know, if Wild is a place that you're able to play your decks of old, right? That's their pitch for it. There's not really a problem banning cards, is there? Because it can't be a deck of old if it's not a card there. So it's interesting. I think it's good for the Wild format because, again, they don't make cards with Wild in mind. When they make a card like Stealer of Souls, they don't make it with Wild in mind. When Hysteria was made, they didn't make it with Wild in mind, and it broke the format. So if this happens again, they can outright ban a card. The issue that comes with this is maybe there is a cool combo, there is something cool you want to play, and they ban it from our format, and that sucks. So I feel like we're getting to this point with Wild where they might want to introduce another format, just an all-around, like I mentioned, the unnerfed format where every card exists in its unnerfed format and it's a complete and utter fiesta, and they never have to balance it, and it's never has that expectation of it. And then you can have the regular Wild format where I guess they could ban cards, you still have nerfs in place, like a leeching poison still stays nerfed, but in the other mode you could have an infinite leeching poison, which could be ridiculous with Kingsbane. But yeah, they are actually straight up banning Stealer of Souls, and it made me think like what other cards could be banned from Wild, and maybe that'll be a top 10 list at some point. But I thought I'd relay that news. It's a pretty big deal, and yeah, next week you can expect to play Wild without Stealer of Souls being shoved down your throat. It can allow other decks other than aggro decks to breathe, because that was another video I was gonna make. I was gonna go on a big tangent, and you know what, instead of making that video, we can talk about it right now as to why this happened, why this actually happened, and why this, I believe this is a good thing. So the big argument I read about the Stealer of Soul decks and why they shouldn't be you know, why it shouldn't be nerfed, there is people against straight up doing anything about this deck, and that was that aggro decks beat Stealer of Souls, therefore it's okay. Aggro can beat it. The thing is, that was just one of the worst arguments ever. First off, Stealer of Souls beat most aggro decks. I played this deck a ton. I got this achievement, unlocking 500 wins with Nozdormu. I literally played a Stealer of Souls deck with Nozdormu in it to a 65% win rate. Worst matchup was Secret Mage. Secret Mage is the only deck that straight up hard counters this deck, mainly because, not because it's aggro, not because it goes face, but because it runs explosive runes and counterspell. It's really hard to play around both of those, so it would lock it out. But every other aggro deck, you have Defile, you have Dark Skies, you have Armor Vendor, you have cards that give you ways to beat it. You have Drain Soul. I was actually over 50% against every other single aggro deck in the game, and then every other slow deck I auto beat. It just absolutely destroyed. My worst matchup was Secret Mage. My second worst matchup was Stealer of Souls Warlock, the Mirror, because it's about who goes first, or if you're running Disruption like a Cult Neophyte or something, right? Like, it was such a garbage argument that, oh, it's only aggro that beats it. It's no, Secret Mage beats it. And that's what ended up happening on ladder. The ladder became exclusively, at least where I was playing until I dumpstered for like my achievements and started facing wacky stuff, which is really fun, was literally Stealer of Souls, and Secret Mage. That's all it was facing, because, well, the only thing that beats Warlock for the most part is Secret Mage, and then Stealer of Souls is really good. And these type of decks that literally lock out an entire archetype of decks that people want to play, which is control, combo, mid-range, all those get locked out by Stealer of Soul. It polarized the meta so much, and that created, so that's what was so frustrating. And people are like, I saw people making comments, well, it's not tier S, it's not the best deck in the format. Well, no, because you could hard counter it. People play Secret Mage, and it's not the best. You could argue it was like tier 2 by how much it warped the meta. I think Tempo Storm had it tier 2 because it was warping the meta so much. And Dark Lair, to be fair, Dark Lair can beat it as well, because Dark Lair is faster. But overall, it was one of these decks that locked out. Like, it's like an 80 to 90% win rate against basically everything other than like 2 decks in the game, and that's not healthy. That's like the old Quest Mage problem, which got nerfed. That's the old Darkest Hour problem, which got nerfed. And even Sniplock was tier S. That was just ridiculously good. But we've seen decks like this before. I even quoted this quote by Ixar when they're talking about decks they want to nerf in Wild. They do it based on this approach. And you know, whether it's something that has way too insane of early game, like mid to early game turns that are super unfun, or the deck is at a higher power level than anything else. And you could argue it's at a higher power level than anything else, but that's debatable. But it's definitely creates that unfun swing in the mid to early game, right? Because it's turn 3, 4, and 5 this thing goes off. It's insane. So that's why I'm totally fine with this change. I'm really interested to see how often we'll see these bans for Wild, if that'll be a common thing. Maybe they'll introduce it to other cards. Maybe Dark Lair could get banned because that's a continuing problem. Maybe that could be the issue to like fix Dark Lair for Wild, that continuous infinite mana regeneration. I might make a video again, like I said, on a top 10 list of cards that could be considered to be banned, and I'm going to leave it to the comments. Are there cards you would like to see banned from Wild going forward? Would you like to see another format introduced where everything is unbanned? Like, what do you guys want to see? And I think it's a really interesting and fascinating time for Wild. I'm very excited about this. I'm excited to see how it plays out next week. I could finally maybe start to try some other stuff, because the way it's been going right now, I've dumpstered myself. I put myself at such a bad rank to get away from Stealer of Soul decks that maybe I'll get my rank back and start seeing what the real meta is like. And if it's just Dark Lair, Warlock, and Reno Priest again, because it's probably what we're going back to. We're probably going to go back to a very similar meta before Stealer of Souls, because honestly, the mini set didn't have a ton of implications. Aggro Shaman with the Dungeoneer card got a lift. That'll help it out. But other than that, there is not a ton that will likely change in the meta. But again, it's Wild. It's not going to change a lot, but maybe they ban a card like Dark Lair. Maybe they won't ban a card like Raza though, because that's not really that's part of the deck of old philosophy. I'd be surprised if they do that. I think it's more recent cards, but maybe they could ban a Polk Out, you know. Again, we'll talk about that. We'll probably make a video on that probably tomorrow. That'll be fun, so check that out. But yeah, huge news. I think it's exciting. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.